Welcome to the epicenter of sports and entertainment. This is the Root Dog Show. Now, here's your host, Rudy Reyes.
Hey, good evening, everybody. This is Rudy Reyes on the Root Dog Show. Welcome, one and all are welcome. Thanks for coming on. You know, I certainly appreciate what I seen yesterday from the Super Bowl, and there's a lot of things that I learned about it. One of those things is that Patrick Mahomes is a generational talent. That's one. The second part is that the 49ers just committed way too many errors, and of course, this is Overreaction Monday, and everybody can overreact if they want to. I'm certainly not one of them, and I'm not going to overreact to Taylor Swift's 20-plus shots on the camera. What I will say is that when you look at the Super Bowl in totality, there's a lot of things that you like from the 49ers from the onset of the game. They were moving the chains, and they found themselves in plus territory quite often, back-to-back first downs from the onset. And when I look at this game, I think to myself, man, how many splash plays were there by the 49ers? It looked as if they were on their way until that fumble, and that was the first fumble of the game by Christian McCaffrey. Couldn't do anything with it, obviously, other than put it on the ground and put it in the Chiefs' hands, and then they decided to go 3 and out. Now, the 49ers scored 10 points in the first half of the game. A low-scoring game, kind of a yawner, I must admit. I wasn't exactly enthused by the yawner, but a yawner nonetheless, and I have no control over that. Sorry. Not sorry. Sorry, but not sorry. The Chiefs managed to overcome a lot in this game. A lot of questions in regards to what corrections are they going to make. And I thought to myself, you know what? That is what they're going to do. When you look at the game, when you look at the second half corrections, yeah, Mahomes had a low snap. Yeah, he may have gotten sacked a few times. And there were instances throughout this game where when you look at the connection that he had with Travis Kelce, wasn't exactly what you thought it was in the first half. And when you look at the well that they had dug while having Travis Kelce as their tight end, of course, he leads. He's like on a top 5 list of tight ends with the most receptions. He's like at 82.7. So that's actually pretty good out of 100, I must say. There are guys who obviously rank higher than that, number one being Santonio Holmes, with probably the most difficult catch from a quarterback, and that was for a touchdown. A lot of the things that I looked in this game for was control the line of scrimmage by the 49ers. They did that on the defensive side of the ball. Offensively, they were able to prevent that pass rush, even though Brock Purdy was sacked and pressured quite frequently. The old adage of defense wins championships, you could not be more correct, because that's exactly what happened in this game. I wish I had video clips to show you exactly what I'm referring to. But when you look at this game and you think to yourself, man, there was a ton of 49er fans all on the edge of their seat, especially in the second half. They decided to score 10 points. They did nothing in the third, and that's when the storm started to rage for the Kansas City Chiefs. They scored 10 in the third, and then 4 in the sixth, and then 6 in overtime. And if you were a prop better or you decided to do some betting, you certainly found yourself in a winnable situation in an over, 46.5 for the 49ers, but then +2 for the spread, and then 110 points on the money line for the Chiefs. Now, I'm not a betting guy. I've made this mention on quite a few shows, many podcasts. I'm just not a bettor. I'm just not. And it's not as if the 49ers played this game measly. It's not as if Brock Purdy didn't do his absolute best. First Super Bowl for a good portion of the players on all 3 phases of that football team. But one thing I did like from Brock Purdy is that he was not shaken. He held steady throughout the game. He held steady with those pressures up front. He threw the ball away. There were some points where I thought to myself, man, that would have been an easy touchdown. You could say the same thing for the other side of the ball when Kansas City had it, with Mahomes missing out on a couple of guys. And of course, one of the fumbles by Kansas City, Travis Kelce he was probably better off doing a chest bump to Coach Reed than he was going or getting in his face and bumping him out of his normal socket. Uh, I think more importantly, when you look at the 49ers, you think to yourself, man, they played their tail off, and they did. Brock Purdy ended up with 255 yards, Patrick Mahomes, 333 yards, and I think that 333 yards came in nearing the third end of the fourth quarter because he just seemed to have found his rhythm. Whether that was a design play on third and long, I don't know. It looked like it was, but then it didn't look like it was. There's a lot of things to like about what the 49ers did in this specific game. What I didn't like were the turnovers, which were very costly, and it turned them, kind of turned everything upside down. And overall, I think when you look at Brock Purdy, had one passing touchdown. Mahomes had 2. Christian McCaffrey had 80, and then he had 80 receiving yards. So, I mean, you couldn't ask for a better run and pass combo from Christian McCaffrey. The problem was a differential of that fumble for the 49ers. That right there did it all for them. And of course, on the other side of the ball, there were multiple sacks on Patrick Mahomes. Jair Brown had an interception. It was an errant throw by Patrick Mahomes. He didn't have anybody open. He overshot Travis Kelce in the open field. Total yards for Kansas City, well, it wasn't even a pedestrian. It was 455 yards. That's actually pretty good. San Francisco had 110. Kansas City had 130. There was just, this game was probably closer than people thought it was going to be. And I'm not saying that Kansas City didn't make a run at this in the first quarter. They just didn't have the fluidity. They weren't able to execute the way that they wanted to. And one thing I really appreciated about the 49ers is that their blitz percentage went up big time. And overall in this game, I think to myself, man, if Kansas City had have thrown the interception and the 49ers capitalized on it with a touchdown, that would have been the difference in the game. And the 49ers would have won that. But again, you can go back and say, well, shoulda, woulda, coulda. It didn't happen that way. But with those fumbles by San Francisco, again, very costly for them. Not capitalizing on turnovers. Just I want to see very odd things I didn't see from the 49ers during the regular season that I'd seen from them in the Super Bowl. And as far as the pressures up front and the amount of time of possession, 38 minutes for San Francisco, 36. So what that means, what that tells me, and what that should tell you, is that San Francisco did a lot less with more, and Kansas City did a lot more with less. So certainly something to look forward to moving forward into the next season. A lot of things transpired already. There's one team specifically that decided to make some cuts already, and I'm sure the 49ers are probably going to do the very same thing once they sift through the ash and find out who the actual guys are going to stay and who's going to go and everything they're in. And one of those components are running backs, obviously, are one of the guys that go first, or at least have their contracts looked at because they're the ones that make the least amount of money. I'm not saying they're not worth it. I'm just saying that's what's going to happen first. But in this instance, from multiple positions throughout the field, the Steelers decided to make some moves today by cutting. Of course, you probably knew it. I've exhausted my feelings about Mitch Trubisky throughout the entire season. He's not even a game manager. He's barely plausible at being a backup quarterback. And that's why Chicago Bears said, all right, he'll go to Buffalo. And then from Buffalo, decided to come to Pittsburgh. And they're going to be saving actually a lot of money with this move by cutting him. Now, in total, excuse me, what you're going to see is that there's over 2 million, almost 2 million, 2.5 in cap space. But then it's going to put them at 17 over the cap at the start of the 2024 season. So the Steelers are $80 million over the 2024 salary cap. And of course, those come with cuts. And one of those cuts today, kind of surprising to me, was Presley Harvin III. Why? Well, because he didn't do his job as consistent as we thought he would actually perform in and actually do. Chukwuma Okorafor, gone. Cut by the Steelers as well. Why? Because, well, he didn't live up to the expectations, didn't live up to the billing, being drafted. And then, of course, Mitch Trubisky, the aforementioned quarterback, obviously gone. Mitch Trubisky signed an unrestricted free agent waiver, which I think was good for the Steelers. They didn't spend a whole lot of money on him, so certainly something to look out for in the upcoming season as to who is desperate enough to grab Mitch Trubisky. Harvin selected in the 2021 NFL draft. He had a net yard average of 43.7, but he also had 75 punts down inside the opponent's 25-yard line. Okorafor was drafted by the Steelers in the 2018 NFL draft a couple years earlier, so he's had some time starting 59 of those games. The problem is they only played in 77 of them. He hasn't done very good. Pancake block percentage is very low. I don't know. I just didn't think he was a good fit from the onset, and I really had to watch him on that line to make sure that he was able to be a cohesive piece to the rest of that unit. But unfortunately, it just did not pan out for him. I look forward to probably more in free agency from Pittsburgh in order to grab a quarterback. And I said this earlier on X. I'd say that Okorafor did not perform to expectations, gone. Presley Harvin, same thing. Mitch Trubisky, good riddance. Why? Because he didn't perform to expectations as well. Could be a practice squad quarterback for some other team. But the more teams that you are unrestricted free agent you sign for, doesn't necessarily mean you're going to start. That just means they're very desperate. So if they have to dig down deep and get someone, Mitch Trubisky in the practice squad room, I guess would be someone you would have to go after without a doubt, especially if you're, and we've seen the San Francisco 49ers go through this season before last, in relation to Garoppolo going down and then not Stidham, but their second backup, and then here comes Brock Purdy. So a lot of things to like from Mitch Trubisky, but a lot of things I did not like from Mitch Trubisky. One of those from as high as QBR was, I think, 104.3. I mean, somewhere in that genre. He did okay in that game against the Cardinals. The problem is that he is a turnover machine. He threw for 4 TDs, had 5 interceptions. Before that, 5 interceptions. The year before that, and then the Bills, 1 interception, 8 interceptions in the Bears. I mean, he's kind of hot and cold, and I'm not saying that he's going to be a great quarterback because clearly he isn't, but he's a serviceable quarterback, especially if it's only, I don't know, maybe a week. But again, that could collapse at any given moment, especially when you put him into a game where you need a guy who can actually do something. And I don't know that Mitch Trubisky is that guy. Like I said, I'm not hating on him. I'm just saying that when you look at his body of work, it's not very good. It's not consistent. And what this team needs is a consistent quarterback. I know Kenny Pickett will be coming back. I know that Mason Rudolph is probably an urgent free agent that will be reassigned by the Steelers. He played decently on the ending parts of the season. The problem is that they're playing in very unknown weather conditions. Defense just fell apart against the Bills. I mean, plain and simple. Bills just had answers for the Steelers in every sense of the word. But then the Bills went out and they lost as well. So it's just one big trickle effect. I like to kind of move on here. Only the reason why is because when you look at the NFL season, it's kind of done. But there's one last thing that isn't done, is the fact alone that, and I mentioned this from the onset of the show, Taylor Swift got more highlights, more camera time than anybody else on the field. I mean, anybody else on the field. 25 or 26 times, someone will have to refresh me on that one, but over 20 times at least. And I don't think that's fair to fans. And on the opposite end of that spectrum, and I'll close out this segment with this. There was a young lady on social media talking about how it's so unfair, and she was crying and whining, or whatever you want to call it, just upset about the fact that during Swift's performance on stage during the Eras Tour, they kept giving shots to Travis Kelce. And I think obviously it was probably more of a ruse than anything else. But she just started crying, and it's just, I just wanted to tell her to be quiet. It's just basically a lot over nothing. And when I look at this game, I thought to myself, why don't they just stop? It doesn't make any sense to me. This is not part of the football game. Yes, she's there. She flew in from Tokyo. And is she going to suit up and get out of the field? Is she going to kick a 53, 55-yard field goal? No. Keep the camera on the game. And that's all I'm going to say about that. Next, but not ever last, or not least rather, man, baseball season is here. And if you're not a fan of the Dodgers, you probably will be, because they're opening up as the favorites, as well as the Atlanta Braves, who did really good last year. And the Baltimore Orioles making some moves as well, trying to shore up their roster to make a deep postseason run. But look, baseball is a long season. There's a lot of bat swung. There's a lot of foul balls tipped. There's a lot of strikeouts and a lot of home runs to be said. And one thing that I do appreciate about the Dodgers from an organizational standpoint is that what they needed to do was to go out and get a star, and they did that with Shohei Ohtani coming from the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim, as well as Yamamoto in December. And the recent, it's not as if they haven't won a title in recent memory. The last time they won a title was in 2020. So, I mean, yeah, okay, so 4 years removed from winning a World Series. People call it the Bubble Series, but in either case, it's same year as the Lakers when they won their last championship. Seems like forever ago. For every game that goes on when that team wins a championship, it just makes you wonder, are they really in the mode? Do they get their mojo back as the season progresses? Probably. I mean, the NBA, when you look at them, it's almost as if they get better as the season goes on, because you're able to break your body in. Maybe it's the sneakers, or maybe it's a combination, but you start to get a feel for the real-time roster and the guys that are on the roster. So it wouldn't surprise me to see the Dodgers make every single ounce of a run at the NL to ultimately get back to the World Series. But that's a long way away. I'm not predicting that they will, but it is a long road for sure for any team in Major League Baseball. The 2024 season will begin March 20th. I am waiting for that. I did have my Pirates hat on earlier. I took it off. Excuse me, because I had to shave. And when you have to shave, well, you do what you got to do. There's an international series where the LA Dodgers will play at San Diego Padres in Seoul, Korea, South Korea, no less. And it's going to be aired for the first time ever, Major League Baseball Network. And this is going to be interesting. It's going to be a 3 a.m. time frame. Not that I'm going to wake up and watch that. Clearly, it's going to be recorded, and I'll have to watch it the very next day. But the full schedule is out for all teams. And of course, there's a ton to look forward to. There's training camps in Bradenton. There's a Grapefruit League. I mean, there's so much baseball to be had. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, the Cubanos started their baseball season, I think, with a baseball classic or something to that effect. I was trying to look at something John Morosi had posted on Major League Baseball earlier today, or maybe it was last week. In either case, baseball's on its way, and there's no stopping it. It's going to be here sooner than you know it. And when you look at the regular season, there's a lot to like. We'll start with the American League East. Toronto starts the season in a very challenging 10-game road trip, which is a lot. Why? Well, they're in Canada, and they're going to spend a lot of time trying to hit all these teams between Houston, Tampa Bay, which clearly will be the closest, the farthest rather, and the Yankees, and then the home opener April 8th against the Mariners. It looks like all teams are going on the road first, and a lot of them will end up being at home during April. Dodgers will be at home April 26th through the 28th, which will be the first time that happened since 2016. Marlins will be at home September 27th and the 23rd, and then they'll finish off the season in Toronto. So again, a lot of baseball to be played, a lot of teams that are looking to kind of get an edge out early. And I know everybody's looking forward to the baseball season. I know I am. I've been waiting for it through the entire NFL season. And now it's finally here. So thank goodness for that. The Orioles won't see much of the AL East. They're going to play a lot of NL games. And overall, I think that, Orioles have a lot. I mean, first of all, what they did was they sold the majority of the franchise to another billionaire, of course, which kind of changes priorities a little bit, or maybe the owner didn't want to change too much. But I guess we'll have to see how that worked out. Of course, Manfred had to approve on that sale without a doubt. Rays will maybe open up on a hot start. I don't know. They won 13 straight games in the beginning of 2013. Will that be a repeat of what it looks like in 2024 X25 season? I don't know. Red Sox will open up a 10-game road trip as well. They're going to play at Fenway starting April 9th. It's a lot of moving parts. A lot of teams are certainly trying to find their rhythm. In the AL Central, the Guardians will host the White Sox and Indians. And then its first homestand between April 8th and 14th. So it looks like a road trip all the way around for everybody from the onset of the season. I'm Rudy Reyes on the RudDogShow.com, typically joined by Barry Long, but not today. This is a solo trip in time. Fast forwarding, I guess, be a better way to state that. 3 NL West teams haven't spent as much time at Kauffman Stadium over the years, but the Padres, D-backs, and Giants, who have played 2 games in Kansas City since 2017, obviously since celebrating their first World Series title in 2014. The Royals will host the Marlins for the first time since 2013. So a lot to like throughout the Major League Baseball landscape. There's so much information. There's so many things. You can go to MLB.com and check out all the great rosters and schedules. I think the most interesting team to look forward to, or look out for, rather, in this instance, are the Athletics. Are they the Las Vegas Athletics, or did the mayor just send them back to Oakland? A lot to unwrap there. I'm not exactly sure of the specifics regarding what the mayor's comments in totality were in relation to the Athletics and what they mean to Las Vegas, if they mean anything at all, for that matter. They haven't meant a whole lot in Oakland since, inception. Haven't done a whole lot there. So that is a story that's going to be unfurling a lot sooner than later, and we'll talk about here on the RudDogShow.com. But with that being said, the last team I wanted to talk about were the actual Rangers. Rangers, being the current World Series champions, are certainly going to have their work cut out for them. Opening day is March 28th against the Cubs. Of course, Cubby fans love that action. This is the 5th time since 2014, and the fifth time since 2014, and the 4th time since 2019. The Rangers will host an NL team on opening day. So something to look forward to for all you Ranger fans out there. I know there's plenty of them, but I certainly I look forward to baseball in every single way, shape, and form. I've been checking it out here and there, but now that the NFL season is done, I'm really kind of pushing myself into getting into baseball, probably more than at any other point in the season, for that matter. I wanted to touch on something here really quick for the end of the show. The Pirates will travel to Miami and Washington to begin the year before they go back and head to PNC Park. They'll host the Orioles and the Tigers between April 5th and the 9th in some rubber matches. Then the Orioles and Angels will all come to town as well for Pittsburgh, at least since 2017. But a person that is going to be missed sorely from a baseball perspective only in Tampa Bay is Wander Franco. Is currently facing charges and could face jail time for an alleged sexual relationship with a 14-year-old for several months in 2022. And, he was among those set to start, but clearly in custody, and I can't even speculate what that looks like for them. However, the Pirates open up annual days. Of course, there were Roberto Clemente Day on September 15th. That's kind of my weekend birthday-ish, I guess. All 30 Major League Baseball teams will be in action. The Pirates will host the Royals. Sorry, I am actually getting over a head cold, so forgive me for all the pauses and breaks, but I have to breathe at some point. Anyway, I wanted to thank you all for joining me here on the RudDogShow.com. Go to the RudDogShow.com, throw me a follow at RudDogReyes. Please subscribe. I certainly appreciate it. Like it, love it, share it, never leave it. Like it because, well, I like that kind of thing, and I really appreciate you guys tuning in. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful evening, and we'll see you tomorrow. Have a good night.